Hello, this is McD the Beast, and this is McD Sports 4 coming to you today with my college football report card for the 2022 college football season. Before I continue, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. Greatly appreciate if you do that. Really trying to go to channel, so go ahead and do that. So the way this is going to work, I'm going to give every team a grade A, B, C, D, or F. Also, we have the tier as well for the teams that I think did above the A grade. So let's get into it. A few quick notes. One, ignore the ads. Um, this this is off of the tier maker, so just ignore the ads. I try getting rid of them, but I just can't. Two, I have all 130 teams down here, with the exception of JMU. Uh, so I'm just gonna tell you right now, JMU for me gets an B. They went 8-3. First year in the FBS, they went 8-3. Thought they could have maybe done a little bit better. They had some losses there in the Sun Belt, some growing pains. But I went ahead and I'm going to give them a B. So JMU gets a B. But let's get into it. We'll kick it off with Tulsa. And Tulsa, they actually decided to fire their head coach, which Phil Montgomery, which was a bit of an interesting move. I was a little bit surprised by that. But they did go 5-7, 3-5 in the conference. Tulsa always seems to be a team that hovers around 500. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put them in C. I know they fired their head coach. Maybe they think they, with the American changing and bringing in some new teams, you have UCF, Cincinnati, Houston leaving the American. Maybe they thought that they could have gone out and get a better coach, maybe. But I'm gonna give Tulsa a C, the low end of the C, but a C nevertheless. Next, Alabama. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm giving Alabama a B. And you might be like, oh, they went 10-2. Expectations. They're expected to win the college football championship every year. They didn't even make the SEC championship game. They beat up Kansas State in their New Year's Six bowl, but at the end of the day, 10-2. Yeah, two close losses. Probably could have been three close losses if Texas, their quarterback, did not get injured. I'm giving Alabama a B. Georgia, I'm giving them an S tier, 15-0. What else can I say? Kirby Smart is building something special there in Georgia, and he already has, and will continue to build it. Georgia in the S tier. Tennessee A. Tennessee exceeding my expectations. I thought this team was going to still lose 3-4 games. They beat Alabama. And outside of a bad game against South Carolina and just in a game against Georgia, which they clearly were just out talented in, Tennessee had a wonderful season, went 10-2, won their New Year's Six game against the team we're going to talk about here next. I'm giving Tennessee an A. Clemson, I'm giving Clemson a B. I'm going to put them behind Alabama. Still made a New Year's Six game, still won the ACC, still went 11-3. It feels like Clemson is kind of taking a step back from where they were previous years. Maybe that would change. I'll give Dabo Swinney credit. He went out and made a big hire in Garrett Riley, the offensive coordinator from TCU, to be the OC. So I'll give Dabo credit there, but I'm gonna give Clemson a B. I'm putting them behind Alabama since they lost their New Year's Six bowl game. Missouri, Mizzou. Mizzou, I felt like this year was a little bit disappointing. They went 6-7. I'm putting them in C tier. I'll put them ahead of Tulsa since they made a bowl game, but I always thought that Mizzou in the SEC could be like an 8-5 program. They're kind of out there a little bit, off the grid a little bit in the SEC. Pick off somebody every now and then. They've done a decent job recruiting. I think Eli Drinkwitz should be on the hot seat going into next season. The expansion of the SEC with Texas and Oklahoma coming in, it's going to be difficult for Missouri, I think, to really find consistency there in the SEC. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm giving Mizzou a C. Next is Arizona. I'm going to go ahead and I'm giving Arizona a C as well. Um, Arizona exceeded my expectations this year, and I'm only giving them a C because they went 5-7 still. But Jed Fish, he definitely has this program going in the right direction. I do think that Arizona overall in the Pac-10 down the road, since even though it looks like it's going to be the Pac-11 at least, since San Diego State's going to be joining the Pac-12, which I'm going to make a whole separate video about because, by the way, just a little hint about that video. I don't think there's going to be a Pac anything in the near future because I think the Pac-12 is on life support at best. But Arizona, in my opinion, I like what's going on there. I really do. I mean, they had a big win against UCLA late in the season. So, Arizona, I'm giving them a C. Notre Dame, I'm going to go ahead. I'm giving Notre Dame a B. I am going to put them ahead of Clemson because of the head-to-head. I know Clemson had a bit of a better record. And listen, the losses against Marshall and Stanford were horrible. You turn around, you beat Clemson, you beat a good South Carolina team in your bowl game in the Gator Bowl. I like what I'm seeing from Notre Dame. I think I said Marcus Freeman overall. Um, I thought it was going to be some speed bumps at the beginning, but I felt like that was the guy they had to hire as a head coach because Marcus Freeman was going to be a big time head coach somewhere one day. So it happens to be at Notre Dame. We'll see what happens in year two. But they have that big game at home against Ohio State in week 3 or 4. I know that in 2023. And I'm going to give them a B. I think they get a solid B from me for this season. They're recruiting a little bit better under Marcus Freeman, so I'm giving them a B. Next, Kansas. Kansas, my God, they fell off a little bit there at the end. I'm still giving them a B because if you're at Kansas making bowl games, that's very good. Um, Lance Poi, um, unbelievable job there at Kansas. And I think it continues there in Kansas as well in the new Big 12 for a year. Texas and Oklahoma are still in the Big 12 for one more year, but you're bringing in Cincinnati, Houston, BYU, and UCF in the Big 12 this year. So I think it continues. I think Kansas is right there in the middle of the pack. They definitely had an offense last season. We'll see what happens this upcoming season, but I'm giving Kansas a B. They made a bowl game. They get a B from me. Auburn, I'm giving Auburn a D. And the only reason I'm not giving them an F is because I still thought they were competitive down the stretch. Auburn was. I think that Auburn they went 5-7, 2-6 in the SEC West. They actually did not finish in last place there in the SEC West. We'll get into that in a second. Um, you look at Auburn. They bring in Hugh Freeze. They fired Brian Harsin halfway through the season. To me, Brian Harsin never really got a fair shot. He had that horrible second half last year and it can never really have fair shot to recover from it. And I still think Brian Harsin could coach. I think several Power 5 teams should consider Brian Harsin as their head coach if they fire their coach after 2023. But you look at Auburn, um, it's a bit of a rebuilding project. We'll see what happens. But the last season, I gotta give it a D. And I'm gonna make a comment when we grade the new head coaching hires here for the college football here. When I grade those new hires, I'm gonna make a comment that might be a bit interesting, but it does need to be made because it's my opinion. Air Force. I'm giving Air Force. I'm gonna give Air Force an A. They went 10-3. They were actually favored in every game this season that they played in. They went 10-3. Pretty good season. Air Force was my pick to represent the New Year's Six. In the New Year's Six Bowls to represent the Group of 5 teams. They came up a little bit short in that, but overall, I'm giving Air Force a solid A. I think they did a great job this year. Next team, Akron. Akron this year, 2-10. I think they're heading in the right direction, but I'm going to give them an F. Listen, you're in the MAC. You went 1-7. To me, in the MAC, as long as you have a compliment, like an okay team, you should at least be going 500 in the MAC at that level. And that might be a bit too much to ask for some programs most years, but in my opinion, I just think that Akron. I mean, they were in my opinion they were the worst team in the MAC. They were, by far in my opinion. I mean, I know Northern Illinois went 3-9, but even they were competitive in the MAC. Akron just did not seem competitive to me in the MAC. So I went ahead. So I'm giving them an F, my first F letter grade. Next, Army. I'm giving Army a C. I'll put them ahead of Tulsa. They went 6-6 this year. Then get into a bowl game. You look at Army. I mean, some years is tough at Army. I get that. They've had some successful seasons. They've had some seasons that you kind of leave your head scratching. This was one of those seasons that was kind of just middle of the road for me for Army. It was not anything special right home about. I'll give you guys a C because you played 500 ball, but C for Army. Boise State, I'm giving Boise State an A. Boise State, I'm putting them ahead of Air Force because they actually were better than Air Force this year. Boise State went 8-0 in the Mountain West. They went ahead. They didn't do good in the out conference. They didn't do good in the in the Mountain West championship game. But you look at Boise State. Um, I mean, I think they're a team. Andy Avila. It took them a year or two to get it together, but I do think Boise State's heading to special places, and I'll make a prediction. I think Boise State's going to end up in a Power 5 conference here in the very near future. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm paying Boise State. I'm giving them an A. Cal. Cal is a very interesting team. I sit there and I'm always like I always expect more from Cal. I'm giving them a D. Um, and to be honest, I don't know if the resources are really there for Cal. A matter of fact, I'm a little bit surprised Wilcox did not get fired, and a lot of people think Wilcox might actually leave Cal after the season, no matter what, to maybe find a job that has more resources. And funny enough, the team that I picked Cal next year, Auburn, I picked them behind Auburn. These two teams actually play each other in week 2 in 2023, but I always expect a little bit more from Cal than I think the expectations really are. I mean, they definitely play defense, but it just seems like they can't go over that hump. They went 4-8, 2-7 in the Pac-12, so I'm giving them a D. East Carolina. East Carolina. Mike Houston has built a really good program there. At East Carolina, they went 8-5. I'm giving them a B. Um, I'm putting them behind Kansas, but I think East Carolina, they're a team that I definitely think in the new American could win the American and be in one of those top teams in the American there. So I'm giving East Carolina a B. I thought they did a pretty good job this year. So go ahead, give me a B there for East Carolina. The next team is in the Conference USA and FIU. I'm giving FIU a C. This team, I thought this team was going to be a one-win team at best. But they went 4-8, 2-8 in the conference. I thought that they exceed my expectations. I can't put them any higher than a C, but because they didn't make a bowl game. But I'm going ahead. I'm giving FIU a C. I forget his name, but he was the former Colorado head coach for like 8 seasons. Great year one for him, despite going 4-8 there. Next team, Florida Atlantic University here. I'm giving FAU a D. I am going to put them behind Cal. They have a new head coach in Tom Herman. I'm going to comment on that more when we grade the new head coaching hires, but which I think is a very good hire. But overall, just a very disappointing year. I think to me, FAU with the way college football is landscape, they seem to get transfers that from players that were highly recruited that didn't work out at wherever they went that are local Miami talent. And I think FAU is definitely a team. They're moving to the American. They definitely can compete in the American with the recruiting base and everything. So I'm paying them as a D, but I do think this is the last year for a while that we're gonna put them in the D, giving them a D. Next, Fresno State. I'm giving Fresno State an A, and I'm paying them ahead of Boise State, not ahead of Tennessee, ahead of Boise State. Though because they won the Mountain West. And they were a pretty good team throughout the season. So I'm giving them an A. They were a fun team to watch. Give them an A. Next is Hawaii. Hawaii 3-10. They actually won 2 games in the Mountain West. A lot of people thought that this team was dead in the water. They did go 3-10. I'm paying them in D tier. But I do think that this team overall, I think it's going in the right direction. Maybe a bit slowly, but I do think they're heading in the right direction there at Hawaii. I'm giving them a D. Next is Louisiana Tech. Louisiana Tech, it was pretty much a disappointing year, in my opinion, for Louisiana Tech. I'm giving them a D because I don't think it was a complete disaster, but just overall, 3-9, 2-6 in the conference. I thought they'll be a bit better this year, so I'm giving y'all a D. Next, Maryland. I am a Maryland Terps fan. I'm giving Maryland a B. I'm gonna put them ahead of Kansas and East Carolina. Um, Maryland they went 8-5. I thought, to me, this season was a bit of a disappointment overall. Looking back at it, if they, I mean, Maryland could, in my opinion, could have easily won 10 games this year. Personally, so I had this team 8-5, 8-4 coming into the season. I sat there and said that I thought that Maryland could very well win 9 games after what I saw against Michigan, and they didn't come to that. But overall, I was pretty impressed with this season. I think Maryland will be slated for a similar season. So go ahead, give me a B for Maryland. Miami of Ohio, give me a C for Miami of Ohio. We'll put them ahead behind Missouri there. 6-7, 4-4 in the MAC. Got to a bowl game. They did lose the bowl game. I mean, it's an okay season for Miami of Ohio. Nothing to write home about, but you didn't make a bowl game. And the way it works in the MAC is they kind of just beat up on each other. So give them a C there. Minnesota, I gotta give PJ Fleck credit. This guy finds ways to win 9 games year in and year out. He went 9-4 this year. I'm giving PJ Fleck a B, and I am paying him ahead of Maryland. PJ Fleck, in my opinion, is I know he was considered for bigger jobs. I think he's at the perfect spot in Minnesota. And in my opinion, I think eventually, if it's not, he will make a Big Ten championship game eventually. I really do. Things will have to bounce the right way, in my opinion, since they're probably going to go divisionless in the Big Ten. But I do think eventually he will make a Big Ten championship game. Nevada, F. 0-8 in the Mountain West, one of the worst teams this season in college football. Let's move on. Next team, New Mexico. New Mexico, this year was not a good team either. Same as Nevada. 0-8 in the Mountain West, 2-10. We'll go ahead and put New Mexico in the F tier as well. New Mexico State. New Mexico State. I actually just saw something before doing this video. Their head coach got their New Mexico State logo. Jerry Kill got the New Mexico State logo tattooed on his arm after winning the bowl game this year, and having a successful season. I'm gonna put New Mexico State in B tier. It's very tough to win there. In my opinion, and I'm actually going to put them ahead of Kansas since they have the better record. It's very tough to win there, and hey, 7-6 is a good season for New Mexico State. So I'm picking them in B. Ohio State, I'm going to pick Ohio State in A, and you might sit there and criticize that. Listen, that Georgia game, I was really impressed with Ohio State. I really was. And throughout the season, besides that Michigan second half, I was really impressed with Ohio State throughout the season, believe it or not. Now, granted, I felt like at times this team line play was mediocre, but overall, I think Ohio State, they're fine. Give them an A. Oklahoma State, I'm giving Oklahoma State a D, and the only reason they're not getting an F is because they actually made a bowl game. We'll put them in the front of D. They went 6-7. No, they went 7-6. Just a horrible second half. Things look kind of murky there at Oklahoma State. We'll see what happens. I do believe in Mike Gundy, but overall, I was very disappointed with Oklahoma State this year. This was a team that I thought would repeat and get to the maybe even get to the college football playoffs. Honestly, I was very disappointed, and overall, I do think that things could go south there if you really want my honest opinion. So, but I'm giving you all a D. Old Dominion. Old Dominion gets a D. Uh, I know first year in the Sun Belt, they've had some success with the Old Dominion program there. But overall, 3-9, 2-6 in the conference. I gotta give you all a D there. Oregon, 10-3. I'm giving you all a B there for Oregon, a high B. I am going to put you behind Alabama. I know you guys won your bowl game against North Carolina, but I mean, I can't get past that 49-3 game against Georgia. I know Georgia's the only team we have put S tier so far, but I do think that Oregon. Ooh, I just can't get past that. But besides that, it was a really good season for Oregon. They had that loss against Oregon State. We'll talk about them in a second. And they had I forgot who else they lost to. Um, was it Washington? Yeah, they lost that game to that throw to Washington. But overall, Oregon, solid B. Oklahoma, I'm giving Oklahoma a C, and I'm going to actually put them in the back of C. I thought they were, to be honest, I thought this team was going to go 8-4, 9-3. They only went 6-7. In my opinion, I do think things are looking in the right direction for them, but this is a season grade. This season for me is a C minus for Oklahoma. I'm paying them in the back of C. Purdue. Purdue made the Big Ten championship game and lost, and then their head coach left, and then they got ran out the building by LSU in the bowl game. But still, a very successful season. I'm gonna go ahead and put Purdue in the B tier. I think they get a B. I think is a solid B, but to a B plus, if you want my honest opinion. Um, Listen, make a Big Ten championship game. Very successful season there at Purdue. Um, as I said, it sucks that you lost to and you guys lost to a better team in my opinion than Michigan. I think no one would dispute that. But the bowl game kind of sucked. Your head coach left for Louisville. You turn around and get ran out the building by LSU. Next, Rutgers. Rutgers gets a D for me. I am going to put them ahead of some of these teams though in D. I'll say this about Rutgers. I didn't expect much from them this year. To me, Rutgers is a team that's kind of they're not really that good, but I'll give Rutgers this. They are recruiting better than some of the teams in the Big Ten finally. So I do think Rutgers could be a bit better than some of the teams in the Big Ten for the next few years, and possibly even back themselves into a bowl game here and there within the next 3 to 5 years. So I know Greg Schiano's seat's starting to get a little bit warm. I don't think he should be on the hot seat because I think Rutgers is a tough place to win. But overall, Rutgers, I'm giving you all a solid D. Southern Miss. Southern Miss this year, they had their running back, Frank Gore's son, that is absolutely and positively ridiculous. I know they only went 7-6. I believe his son is coming back, if I'm not mistaken. I'm giving Southern Miss a high C, probably the highest C I could give it, 79%. I'm putting them in the first C tier. But overall, I was pretty impressed with Southern Miss. First year in the Sun Belt. You guys went bowling, won your bowl game, 7-6 above 500 season. So go ahead, I'll put you as a C. Uh, USC, I'm putting USC in A. Um, I am going to go ahead and put you all behind Ohio State and Tennessee. USC needs a defense. Let's be clear about that. They need a defense, and they need a defense desperately, in my opinion. But besides that, outside the two losses to Utah and the loss to Tulane, which hopefully we'll get into Tulane soon. Um, USC, in my opinion, great season. I would have liked to see them face Oregon personally. Um, or Washington. I believe they did. I know they didn't face Oregon, and I don't think they faced Washington. I would like to see that, but overall, just absolutely a great season for Southern Cal. I'm giving them a solid A. Next, Utah State. Utah State was a team that kind of fell off a little bit. They still made a bowl game. They still went, but they lost that bowl game. They went 6-7. They did well in the Mountain West. I'm giving Utah State a solid C plus. Um, they did win the Mountain West last year. Coming off that though, kind of backtracked a little bit, but still a solid team. I mean, 5-3 in the Mountain West, got to a bowl game, decent year for them. So I'm gonna go ahead and give them a C. Next, Utah. Utah went back to the Rose Bowl and lost this time to Penn State. 10-4 season. Overall, I'm gonna give Utah a low A. And you might be like, oh, but USC, you should put Utah ahead of USC because Utah beat them twice. I get that, but at the same time, I'm looking at the expectations I've had for each of these teams coming into the season. For Southern Cal, I did have them at 10-2 coming into the season, but at the same time, they basically hit my expectations. Utah, in my opinion, did not hit my expectations, believe it or not. I thought they came a bit short of hitting my expectations. I thought they would be a little bit better. They had a very disappointing loss to Florida at the beginning of the season, and yeah, they established their season, got to the Pac-12 championship game, and won it, and got to the Rose Bowl, but I mean, they basically got bullied by Penn State that whole game. And here's the thing: I think Utah should be favorites to win the Pac-12 again next year, in 2023. So I'm giving Utah an A, Bayory. So I'm giving Utah an A. Next, Washington State. Washington State 7-6. Um, they lost their bowl game. Still above 500 season. I think, as I said, I think Jake Dicker's a good coach overall. I think the guy knows what he's doing. I'm going to pick Washington State on the low end of B. Um, at the very bottom of it. Still above 500 season. Nothing to write home about, but as long as you're going 7-6 at Razoo, you could be the coach there for 20 years, and the fans will be happy. To me, overall, it was a decent season for Razoo. Next, Western Michigan. Western Michigan, they went 5-7, 4-4 in the MAC play. This team always seems to find ways to score points. I'm gonna put them on the upper end of D, behind Oklahoma State, Auburn. Um, they still did. They were competitive in the MAC play, but they weren't competitive out conference. That's how I feel about Western Michigan this year. Kind of a little bit of a disappointing season. You want to at least be a bit more competitive in the out conference. So I'm giving Western Michigan a D on the higher end. Next, Wisconsin. 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 I'm gonna go ahead. I'm paying Wisconsin. I'm gonna put them on the highest I can on D in the very front. I do think Wisconsin made an excellent hire in Luke Fickell, but this season overall, kind of a lost season after you fired your head coach and Paul Chris, which kind of came out of nowhere in my opinion. Um, but overall, you sat there, you fired him. Jim Leonard came in. He kind of established the season, made a bowl game, won the bowl game, above 500 season. But I'm still giving Wisconsin a D plus. I think the standard of Wisconsin is 9-4. Anything below that, I got a question. It's 7-6. I think the best I can do is a D plus for Wisconsin. Next is Wyoming. Wyoming went 7-6, and let me tell you something. Wyoming is becoming a type of program where anything above 500 is good. I'm paying them in the very low tier of B. Um, the resources at Wyoming are very thin, and anything above 500 is good for Wyoming. So they went 5-3 in the Mountain West, 7-6 overall. I'm giving y'all a B. Next is Houston. Houston. Is it just me, or has Dana Hogerson's tenure at Houston been a massive disappointment so far? Remember at the beginning of the season where Houston was supposed to be the team that gets to the New Year's Six Bowl. Yeah, I called BS on that, and I was right. They went 8-5. They were still a decent team, but with the expectations coming into the season, I gotta put y'all on the low end of B. I'll put you ahead of Wyoming since you guys did go had a better record than them, but overall, it's just not a good year for Houston in my opinion. I gotta put them in a B with the B's. Next is Kentucky. This year for Kentucky, yeah, you can tell me injuries all you want. This was a really disappointing year in my opinion for Kentucky. A year of nothings in my opinion. I'm giving you all a very high C, and still 7-6 is good at Kentucky with the resources they have and all that. But it felt like Kentucky could have maybe won 9, 10 games this year, and it just fell flat on his face. And I get it; they were actually in the tougher conference this year when it comes to it, down to it, in the SEC, in the tougher division. I get that, but overall, I gotta give you all a C. I just felt like this year was a bit disappointing for Kentucky. UMass F. I know the resources are bad, but 1-11. Come on. Next, is UCF. UCF 9-5. I'm giving UCF a B. Um, I'll put you all ahead of Houston. I mean, this was another team that I felt like could, at points during the season, could represent the New Year's Six, the group of five there in the New Year's Six, but just came short. In that you're going to the Big 12. Good news is that you have a great head coach in Gus Malzahn, and I think it will be a smooth transition there to the Big 12. Next is Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, I'm actually going to go ahead and give Georgia Tech a C. And you might be like, why? I'm going to put them on the lower end of C. Let's see here. I'll put them behind Army. But you might be like, why? Brent K came in and basically saved their season, in my opinion, from really being a complete disaster. And they kept him as the head coach, which was the right thing to do. In my opinion, you look at Georgia Tech. We'll see what happens. We will see what happens. Miami F. How in the world? I'm actually gonna put them below all these teams because Miami has the resources to be better than all to make a bowl game ahead of any of these teams any year given. How can you not make a bowl game if you're Miami? Next, North Carolina. I'm giving North Carolina. I'm gonna put them on the upper end of B. Behind Clemson. I know Clemson blew them out in the ACC championship game, but North Carolina was still overall a pretty good team. They didn't really have much of a defense. It did improve some throughout the season, but overall lost a tough game to Oregon there in the Holiday Bowl. So I think they took advantage of maybe an easier schedule. North Carolina did. I'm giving them a B. Texas. I'm gonna go ahead. And people tell me, "Oh, Texas is a team that should be competing for championships every year. How can we not get over the hump? Because you have a head coach that can't get over the hump." I will give Texas, however, a very low B, only because they should have beat the team that I have number one in B, which is Alabama. If Quinn Ewers didn't get hurt, I think Texas would beat Alabama, and they blew out Oklahoma. They hung in there with TCU. They beat Kansas State. So overall, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm giving Texas a B. Low B though, because the resources at Texas, in my opinion, are the best resources possible. Wake Forest, I'm giving Wake Forest a very high C. And the reason why is they went under 500 in ACC play. They were very one-dimensional. The defense was horrible, and to be honest, they were lucky that they even won 8 games, in my opinion, in a weaker ACC. So go ahead, give me Wake Forest, highest C possible, but a C nevertheless. Next, Washington. I'm giving Washington an A, and you might be like, how can I give Washington an A? I'll put them in the low, yeah, right there an A. 11-2, surprised the hell out of me. I thought Washington would be around 6, 7 wins. It might take a year or two. I was a bit bullish on the Kalen DeBoer hire. I thought it was a bit of a bold hire. I wasn't absolutely sold on it, but I was definitely sold on it at the end of the year. Washington will be a team, no matter where they play in the Pac-12 or somewhere else. They will compete for championships most years. So go ahead, give me they get an A- from me, Washington. I was very impressed this year with them. So go ahead, give me an A. Next, San Jose State. I'm giving San Jose State a B. They didn't play in a bowl game, which I found very interesting. I'm gonna put them ahead of Texas, believe it or not. Um, I don't know why they didn't play in the bowl game at 7-5. Usually, I thought the 6-6 teams don't play in a bowl game, but San Jose State did not play in a bowl game for some reason. But I'm gonna give them a B. Above 500 season. I like their head coach, and Brett Brennan a lot. So I'm gonna go ahead and give them a B. Next is Virginia. I'm gonna go ahead. I told Virginia fans I was not high on this hire at all, and so far I'm proven to be right. I'm giving them a D, and to be honest, I'm giving them a pass only because at the end of the season with the shooting, they canceled 2 out of the final 3 games. That's the only reason. Actually, they canceled that game against Virginia Tech, so they canceled the final 2 games over it. That's the only reason why I'm giving them a bit of a pass here. But I'm telling you right now, this Tony Elliott hire is not working at all from so far. Next team is Pitt. I'm gonna give Pitt a B. They get a solid B from me. I said that Pitt will be somewhere in the ballpark. I'm gonna pit them right around. Uh, I'm gonna I'm gonna pit them behind Minnesota, but ahead of Maryland. Um, Pitt. I said that they were probably an 8-4, 9-3 team. That's what they were. Um, and you look at Pitt. I like what Pat Narduzzi's doing there. I do. Um, and I think it continues there at Pitt. Solid season for Pitt. Next, Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern is a team. They beat Nebraska at the beginning of the year, but after that, in the Sun Belt, basically they beat up on other teams. They got beat up on some 3-5 in the Sun Belt. Made a bowl game. Lost it at 6-7. I'm gonna give them a C, and I'll put them ahead of a few of these teams. It was a decent first year for we'll put them ahead of Georgia Tech. Well, it was a decent year, first year for Clay Hill in there at Georgia Southern. We'll see if he builds off it. Next is Tulane. I'm paying Tulane an S tier. Tulane, in my opinion, and hold on, I have to drag it up a little bit. So the non-D tier, Tulane is an S tier. I did not see this coming. I thought Tulane will bounce back and make a bowl game. I did say that because I didn't think Willie Frisk could do any worse than what he did last year. Man, was I wrong. What an excellent season by Tulane. This will be a season that Tulane fans will remember for the rest of their lives. 12-2, you beat Southern Cal in the New Year's Six Bowl there in the Fiesta Bowl. I'm paying Tulane in the S tier. They deserve it. And yeah, I know. And listen, they beat Kansas State as well, another team that was in a New Year's Six Bowl at the end of the season. So go ahead. They get a thumbs up, Tulane. Next team is Ole Miss. Ole Miss. I'm giving Ole Miss a solid B. We'll put them ahead of some of these teams. I think Ole Miss would be, to be honest, I think Ole Miss would beat all the teams: Purdue, Minnesota, Pitt, Maryland. I think they would beat those teams on neutral field. And to be honest, I think they beat North Carolina as well. Ole Miss, in my opinion, it's kind of a bit of Jekyll and Hyde with them. A bit of an up and down season. I think overall, though, you look at Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin clearly is the right guy for that job. He will continue. I mean, he went 8-5, probably goes 8-5 next year as well. Ole Miss, there, give him a solid B. Next, South Florida F, horrible. They got a new head coach. Mississippi State 9-4. I'm giving Mississippi State. I'm paying them ahead of Ole Miss. There. And matter of fact, I'm tempted to put them ahead of Clemson. Very sad story there at the end of the year with Mike Leach dying due to a heart attack. But overall, um, I was very impressed with Mississippi State. Some people were high on this team coming into the season. I wasn't very buying into that. Yeah, they went 500 in the SEC, but they beat everybody else out of conference, and they beat a very decent Illinois team at the end of the year in their bowl game there. So 9 wins for Mississippi State, pretty impressive. I'm going ahead. I'm paying Mississippi State. I'm giving them a solid B. Next, Iowa State. I'm giving Iowa State a D. I am going to put them ahead of some of these teams, though. I will put them ahead. Actually, I'm only going to put them ahead of a few of them. They just couldn't win games in the Big 12. That's what it came down to. I think things will be better for Iowa State next year. But kind of a down year for them. Next, Oregon State. Oregon State, in my opinion, I'm giving them an A. 10-3. Just they went 6-3 in the conference. They won their bowl game. I'm giving them an A. Hold on. They're not getting a B. They're getting an A. I forget if they beat Washington or not, but they got a low A from me. Very solid year from them. Go ahead, give them an A. I'm going to try and move a bit quicker with some of these. So let's get into it. Middle Tennessee. Middle Tennessee, in my opinion, 8-5 B. We'll put them somewhere around here. App State. App State, they went 6-6. Didn't actually go to a bowl game this year, which was interesting. Kind of a disappointing year for them. Still 500 ball though. Gotta give them a C. West Virginia. Only reason why I'm not giving an F is because they did go 5-7, and it was kind of a tough schedule. Syracuse. I'm giving Syracuse a very high grade here. Very high C. At the end of the day, disappointing second half. Virginia Tech, I'm giving Virginia Tech an F. And you might be like, why? I'm giving Virginia Tech an F, high end of F. The reason why is because I thought with the schedule they would be a little bit better than the 3-8 record. Rice was a team this year, kind of like last year, horrible in the AL conference, decent in the conference. They actually made a bowl game, which was interesting. I'm surprised they made a bowl game ahead of some of the other teams that we mentioned so far that actually did have qualifying records. 5-8. We'll give them a low C, the lowest C possible. Duke, I'm giving Duke an A, because I did not see this coming from Duke. I mean, they were in every game this year, Duke. Even the games they lost, they were in every game. They went, where did they go? 9-4, I believe. Yeah, I'm giving Duke an A. People are higher on the Mike Echo, higher. I thought it was going to take some time. Very solid higher. NC State. I'm paying NC State right behind Maryland in the B category since we had the head-to-head and the Terps won. A bit of a disappointing season, but at the same time, your quarterback got injured. That's your excuse. We'll see what happens next season. Temple. 3-9 for Temple. I'm giving you Temple an F. A very high F, though. Front of the line for F. South Carolina gets a very high B from me. And I'm actually going to put them ahead of Clemson, but behind Notre Dame. At the end of the day, God, Shane Beamer, he just outdoes expectations. Arkansas State, horrible season for year 2 under Butch Jones, 3-9. People said it was going to be a long rebuilding project, so I'm going to give y'all a very low D and give that statement a bit of the benefit of the doubt. Next is Ball State, 5-7, 3-5 in conference play, D. Next, UAB. UAB's in the Conference USA still, right? Yeah, 7-6. They had above 500 season. I'll put you all in the very back of B. I will say this though. Trent Dilfer, new head coach there, interesting hire. We'll talk about that more. Bowling Green. Scott Loafer finally made a bowl game. B, Buffalo. Man, I'm losing my voice here. That's why I want to get through these quickly. 7-6, decent year for them. B, Central Michigan. 4-8. It was kind of competitive in the MAC. We'll put them on the high end of D here, behind Western Michigan. Colorado State. 3-9, 3-5 in conference play, just horrible out of conference. We'll put them in the back end of D here. Colorado, they were horrible. We'll put them from Southern Florida there. Cincinnati, bit of a disappointment. Still a decent season though. I'm gonna put them in the front end of B here. Here I'll tell you what we'll put them. We'll put them way in front of Pitt. There for Cincinnati. Illinois. We're gonna put Illinois in B as well. We're gonna put them behind here. Illinois, in my opinion, kind of fell off the rails at the end of the season for Illinois. Louisville was a team 8-5, kind of had a great second half of the season there. I'm putting them in the solid end of right there in between Maryland and NC State because of the head-to-head there. But in B, they have a new head coach there at Louisville there, and the Purdue head coach, Jeff Brom. Baylor, kind of disappointed in Baylor this year. I thought they'd be a lot better than what they were, 6-7. They did make a bowl game but lost it. I'm gonna put them behind Mizzou. Texas Tech, wrong about this hire at Texas Tech. I'm giving it a solid. I was not high on Joey McGuire's hire, but at the end of the day, hey, he went ahead 5-4 in the Big 12. I'm gonna put them ahead of New Mexico State right there in B. Charlotte, very disappointed here. I thought Will Healy would have a better season than what he did in year one. Let me reword that. I thought Will Healy and the 49ers there in Charlotte would have a better season than what they did. I'm giving them a D there in Charlotte. BYU, they went 8-5. Kind of a weird schedule they were playing to begin with. Give them a solid B here. We won't put them ahead of some of these teams here. We'll put them right ahead there. Next, Arkansas. They went 7-6, kind of a disappointing year. They did find a way to beat Kansas at the end of the year, in the bowl game, which is pretty impressive. So I'm gonna put them up in B, but overall, I did thought it was a disappointing year. I'm gonna actually put them right ahead of Kansas there. Coastal Carolina, 9-4, still a decent year for them. They seem to be one of the powerhouses there in the Sun Belt for years to come there. So I'm gonna go ahead and put them in the B area. Louisiana, 6-7. A little bit of a disappointing year for their year one head coach. I'm gonna put them in the upper end of right behind Southern Miss because of the head-to-head. Boston College, very disappointing year. They did have some wins though down the stretch to kind of savage the season a little bit. 3-9 though, still I'm expecting more. I'm gonna put them on the upper end of F tier. Actually, I was expecting more from Boston College. We should have live streamed this because this is gonna take forever to download. Eastern Michigan, great year for them. They're going in the B area for me. They're going to be ahead of a lot of these MAC teams. They're going to put them right ahead of Houston, actually, there. B, Arizona State. God, they fired their head coach early on in the season. And after that, season kind of went out of control, 3-9. F, I am going to put them behind Boston College. Florida, horrible season for Florida, 6-7. Sort of like Wisconsin, just horrible, and Oklahoma State. I'll put Florida between Wisconsin, and Oklahoma State. Georgia State, 4-8 for Sean Elliott. Kind of a disappointing season. They were competitive though in Sun Belt play. I'll give them a solid D there. We'll put them at FAU there. Indiana. Indiana had some decent wins, believe it or not. They beat Illinois. They beat Michigan State. I'm still paying them in D. However, at the end of the day, Indiana just was not a good team. Iowa didn't have an offense, but defensively they were right there. They actually almost backed themselves into the Big Ten championship game, but at the end, Purdue came in and took care of business. Still an 8-5 season. They won the bowl game. I'm paying Iowa in the low end of B because that's where I expect Iowa every year. I'm going to put them ahead of Washington State there. Kansas State, I'm paying Kansas State in A tier. Kansas State, in my opinion, had a great season. We'll put that, and they made a New Year's Six bowl. We'll put them ahead of Oregon State and Duke. Great season. They won the Big 12 actually. Keep that in mind. So, Kansas State, they get an A from me. They got beat up by Alabama, and you might be like, "Oh, but Alabama should be ahead of Kansas State." Yeah, expectations. I was kind of I did thought Kansas State was gonna be one of the better teams in the Big 12. I didn't expect them to win the Big 12 championship game though. So go ahead, give me Kansas State in the B tier. Kent State, they didn't make a bowl game, so I'm paying them in D tier, but they did do well in MAC play. So I'm going to put them ahead of a lot of these teams in the MAC. And I'm actually going to put them ahead of Indiana because I think they would be Indiana on a neutral field. Interesting thing there that you have a new head coach because their head coach actually went to Colorado to coach with Deion Sanders. LSU, I'm giving LSU an A despite losing 4 games. And you might be like, why? They beat Alabama this year. They made it to the SEC championship game this year. I'm going to put them behind Duke. I think it's barely an A. I will give Duke more of an A before LSU because of the expectations down there. But go ahead, give me LSU for an A there. Troy, men of Troy. Troy this year, pretty damn good season for Troy. 12-2. I'm giving them an A. I am. I was really impressed with Troy this year. They beat UTSA in the bowl game. I'm giving them an A. I'm paying them behind everybody else, but I'm giving Troy an A. Liberty this year, they went 8-5, kind of a whatever season. They have a new head coach. They actually got the head coach from Coastal Carolina there, which was an interesting hire. We'll talk about that more down the line, but I'm going to put Liberty. I'm going to put them. I got to put them ahead of Arkansas at least since they beat them head to head. We'll put them there. Marshall they went ahead and they beat excuse me, while I try to find Marshall. They're in the Sun Belt now. They left the American. They went 9-4. They went ahead and they beat Notre Dame here. So 9-4 season. They won no bowl game. I'm giving them a very solid B. And I got to put them ahead of Notre Dame because of the head-to-head. So Marshall there B. And I think they will be. They will definitely be a lot of these teams that they're ahead of here in the B tier. Memphis, it seems like Memphis has fallen off a little bit. They went 7-6. They did win their bowl game. I'm gonna give them a B, a low end B though. Seems like they fell off a little bit. Put them. We'll put them right there. Michigan. I know Michigan lost their game to TCU. I get that. I'm still paying Michigan in S tier. I mean, one loss on a kind of a fluky loss, in my opinion. S tier for Michigan. Navy's looking for a new head coach after a disappointing 4-8 season. 4-4 in the American though. They did have that big win against UCF at the end of the year. I'm gonna put them ahead of teams in the D tier here. I'm actually gonna put them right behind West Virginia. I was kind of impressed by them. Nebraska. Just a horrible season again from Nebraska. 4-8. Got him in D tier. It hasn't been horrible for Nebraska, but it's getting there. For Nebraska, I'm gonna put them. I gotta put them behind Georgia Southern, and I'm gonna put them right there behind Old Dominion. Northern Illinois, back end of D. I am gonna put them ahead of these four teams though in D because at the end of the day, still kind of competitive in the MAC. Northwestern F. I don't know where you go if you're in Northwestern. I'll put you ahead of South Florida since you did beat Nebraska as your one win. But I don't know where you go if you're Northwestern. Next team is Ohio, 10-4. They did go ahead and I forgot who won. I think they did win the MAC. I'm putting them in B. I wasn't very impressed with a MAC team this year per se, but I think Ohio won the MAC, so I'm putting them in B. I'll put them right behind Texas Tech here. Next team is Penn State. I'm giving Penn State an A. Penn State, in my opinion, they suppressed my expectations. I'm paying them ahead. I'm paying them right there next to. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna pay them ahead of USC. They really hit my expectations and then some. They're gonna be a really tough team in 2023, Penn State. So I'm giving them an A. Next team is UTSA. UTSA, they ran through everybody in the Conference USA. They lost their bowl game to Troy, so I can't pit them ahead of Troy. They lost a game to Houston, which was tough, but I still think they had a better year than Houston. I'm going to pit them behind the Mississippi schools in the B tier. I think that UTSA had a good year there at 11-3, but at the end of the day, I was still expecting a little bit more from UTSA. Next team here, San Diego State. We're almost done. San Diego State, 7-6. Above 500 though in the Mountain West. I'm gonna give them a low B here for San Diego State. I'm gonna put them ahead of at least UAB and Bowling Green, Buffalo, I think. But overall, I was expecting a little bit more out of the future Pac-12 member there in San Diego State. But go ahead, give them a B. Next, Texas State. Texas State, I believe they're looking for a new head coach, if I'm not mistaken. 4-8. I'll give you all a D because at the end of the day, it wasn't a disaster. But 2-6 in the Sun Belt, 4-8 overall, just not good enough. I'm gonna put you ahead of some of these teams. We'll put you right there with Old Dominion since you didn't go 3-9 like Old Dominion and Northern Illinois did. So give you all a D there. Florida State 10-3. I'm really high on Florida State next year. And Florida State, in my opinion, at the end of the year, I think could be damn near any team. Do I put them ahead of Clemson? I know the head-to-head. I'm gonna put them right behind Clemson. I think they get a really high B, but I'm gonna put them behind Clemson because of the head-to-head. And I think that Florida State could be favored to win the ACC next year. All right, a few more. SMU went ahead. They scored a lot of points and went 7-6. Give them a low B to mid B. Put them right there. We will actually put them ahead of Memphis since they finished ahead of Memphis. I know, and they finished ahead of Houston. We'll put them right here, right there for SMU. Decent year. So 7-6 overall. Next was South Alabama. South Alabama was a team I was high on throughout the season. They did not make the Sun Belt Championship game because at the end of the day, they went ahead and it was in the same division as Troy. But I still thought this was a great year for South Florida, and I think there would be a bunch of teams at least in the B tier. I'm gonna go ahead. I gotta put them at least ahead of Southern Miss, which is in C. But I'm gonna go ahead and at least put them ahead of Coastal Carolina, and I think they would have beat Ohio too. We're gonna put them right we're gonna put them right behind. We're gonna put them right ahead of Ohio here and B. Next, Michigan State. They missed the bowl game. I'm paying them in D. Very disappointing year. I am gonna put you ahead of some of these teams though in D, because I think your situation is a bit better than most of these teams, with the exception of Wisconsin. But I think Michigan State, hopefully they could get their recruiting together, because that's what it comes down to for me with Michigan State. Pac-12, Stanford. I'm giving Stanford a D. They got a new head coach because their head coach resigned. So they have a new head coach from Sacramento State. I'm gonna put them ahead of some of these teams. They did have that win against Notre Dame. I'm gonna put them ahead of Nebraska actually, and I'm gonna put them ahead of Ball State there. And actually, I'm gonna put them right behind Iowa State. Now thinking about it. So hopefully they get better, but overall, Stanford, I'm giving them a D. Texas A&M, F. I'll put them in the very high end of F because they still went 5-7, but this was a disaster. Actually, I'll put them right here next to Miami because this was a disaster for me for Texas A&M with the expectations, with recruiting class and all that. This was a disaster. TCU's getting in the S grade, and matter of fact, some people might actually decide to put them ahead of Georgia because of the expectations. Because let me tell you something, I was not high on the Sonny Dykes hire at all. In my opinion, I thought that the Sonny Dykes hire um, was just a retread hire that wasn't going to work out. And man, was I wrong. I'm paying TCU right behind Georgia in the S tier. And to me, it didn't matter what happened in that championship game against Georgia because TCU, that was an awesome season by TCU. Toledo, runners up in the MAC. I'm gonna put Toledo. Toledo played a good ball throughout the year. I gotta put you all behind Ohio, but I'm giving you all B. Um, I'll put you right ahead of Arkansas there. So Toledo gets a B from me. All right, UCLA. UCLA overall had a good year. I'm gonna give them a high B. Um, that loss from Arizona really was holding UCLA back. I'm gonna put them. Sorry about that. I'm gonna put them. I'm gonna put them right behind Oregon since they have the head-to-head. Good year for UCLA. I think they might be a team that digresses a little bit next season because they are kind of the only team that doesn't return a quarterback in the Pac-12. It seems like, or has a good quarterback in place there. But we'll see. Never rule out Chip Kelly. UConn gets a B for me. They made a bowl game, believe it or not. 6-6. For uh Jim Moore in his first year there at UConn. They lost their bowl game. I get that. I don't care. I'm giving UConn a B. I'm paying them ahead of. Oh, we'll put them right there ahead of Buffalo. Actually, we'll put them behind Buffalo. UConn, they get a B from me. UNLV, um, UNLV, they fired their head coach despite a 5-7 season. A lot of people were against his firing. And the perception was he did exceed expectations. I get that. I'm still going to put UNLV in the C tier barely, but overall, I felt like it was one of those things with UNLV. It was kind of bowl game or bust, and he came up a bit short for Tony Sanchez to keep his job. They went ahead and hired the former Mizzou coach, which name escapes my mind. That was at Mizzou before Eli Drinkridge was. All right, North Texas, 7-7. What a weird year for North Texas. Kind of make the They kind of go ahead and make the Conference USA Championship game by default. They lost their bowl game. I'm gonna go ahead since they made the championship game. I'm gonna put them in B tier, at the very low end of it. I mean, I could make an argument putting them ahead of at least Middle Tennessee since they finished better than them. So Overall, North Texas there. I'm paying them in B. UTEP. I was high on UTEP this year, and they kind of disappointed me at 5-7. I'm still paying them in a C because it is kind of tough to win there. So we'll put them right behind we'll put them right behind Army. That seems about right. I think those two teams played each other, but I forgot who won. UTEP, they get a C from me. Three more teams, Vandy. I'm giving Vandy a high C. I am, and I don't care that they went 4-8. They definitely looked like a team that was good enough to. They went 5-7, 2-6 in the SEC. They looked like a team at the end of the season that definitely could have won games at the end of the year. I'm picking, and you know what? I'm going to pay them ahead of Kentucky because of the head-to-head. I'm giving them a C plus. That I was really impressed with Vandy at the end of the year, pulling off wins against Kentucky and Florida respectfully like that. I was really impressed with that. So go ahead. I'm giving them a solid C. University of Louisiana Monroe. I'm giving y'all a D. You were competitive in Sun Belt play, but 4-8. Just one of those things. I'm gonna pit you. I'll pit you behind Western Michigan, Central Michigan there in D, and then Western Kentucky. I'll give Western Kentucky a bit of the benefit of the doubt and give them a low B, but overall kind of disappointing there. Um, for Western Kentucky, I'll put you guys from San Diego State. So in my opinion, I thought Western Kentucky was gonna be a little bit better than what they were. So um go ahead and give them a beast. But that's the report card. Long video, 4 in the S tier, for 14 in the A tier. Let's see, 49 Bs, 21 Cs, 29 Ds, and 13 Fs. So comment down below. We failed 13. Some people consider a D failing. So if you want to do 13 plus 29, we failed 42 teams this year. But comment down below. Tell me what you think. I always like hearing from you all. Thanks for watching. Hit the thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate you do that. This is McD the Beast.